Good afternoon from the French Alps, and I'm inside 4 kilometres to go on the Col du Pre. Now this is the first Hors Categorie climb on the 2025 Etape du Tour, and it's a tough one. So without further ado, let's go back down to the start and see how the climb unfolds. Coming into Beaufort, there's a feed station here. We're 57 kilometres into the event. I think the feed station will be right at this roundabout, however there's nothing official yet. There's a marketplace there and there's also some toilet facilities. If you're carrying on without going into the feed station, watch the cobbles here. That was a speed hump, and then we turn right at the next junction. The road's a little bit rough here, and this cobble section could catch you out as we pass the Office de Tourism in Beaufort and start on to the Col du Pre. Now we're winding up through the village and past the church, and there are some water options here. We'll talk about feed stations shortly. However, if you just need water, this is the approach to option number 1 on the right here. I would hope that they turn up the water flow for a tap day. And there's another option just on the left here. It's in that shed thing just there that we've just passed. Climbing out of Beaufort, I was on the climb late afternoon, and we are currently in the middle of a heat wave. It was over 30 degrees in Beaufort at the start of the climb, and initially we go through a section of switchbacks, and then as we leave Beaufort behind, we're back into the alpine meadows. The Col du Pre is an Hors Categorie climb, climbing up to 1,748 metres from a 780 metre start in Beaufort. There's nothing worse than getting overtaken by an electric bike on a climb in this stifling heat. As you can see from the climb profile, it's a climb of 2 halves, with most of the altitude gain after the village of Esch. Just over a kilometre into the climb, we're already high above Beaufort. That's the Saisies over there that we've just come down. Coming back to the feed station situation, there's a feed at the top of the Saisies and then one literally at the bottom of the descent in Beaufort. However, the next one isn't until the summit of the Cormet de Roselend. Regardless of whether the heat wave continues, I think it's going to be critical to manage your water supplies on this section. As we roll along to the village of Esch, the road does undulate slightly here, and there is a downhill just to spin your legs out just before the village centre. However, as we approach Esch, this will be your last opportunity to fill your water bottles. I would hope that they consider putting in an additional drink stop somewhere around the start of the Roselend. However, if you are desperate for water, there are some commercial restaurants along the waterfront. As we approach Esch, that's the ski slopes in the distance there, and I've left this in some detail here so you can see exactly where the water fountain is. So your aiming point is the church, so we're through the traffic lights. Obviously there'll be no cars on the road on a tap day, but just before the church, in on the right here, there is a water fountain. And there is a second fountain just around the corner as you start to climb out of the village. Once we're through Arèche, the road suddenly starts to ramp up and you will start to see double digits on your Garmin or Wahoo. The dynamics of the road change considerably after the village. The road becomes narrower and much steeper. We're now onto a section of switchbacks which you'll see from the map shortly. Just to highlight that if you are staying out for the Tour de France stage and you have a camping car, I'd certainly recommend that you don't aim for this climb, as camping cars are banned on the climb throughout the year due to its narrow nature. As we continue to gain altitude, there's not a lot of shade on this climb. There's a few tree-lined sections, however the majority of the climb is in the blazing sun. I've only ridden this climb a couple of times. One notable instance was in the old Megeve event. It was a super misty day. We could hear voices above us and voices below us. However, on a clear day, I'm sure it'll be a spectacular sight with the riders snaking their way up the climb.
There's been quite a few changes with the Megeve event. It's now in August and simply called the Megeve Mont Blanc. So if you fancy another trip to the Alps later in the summer and another event, I will put a link to that in the description down below.
As we get much further up the mountain now, the climb is well into double digits here. However, the GoPro has a tendency to flatten it. There's more Etape content to come on the channel in the next few days, and here's a quick look of what's coming up next. Back to the Col du Pre.
2 kilometers to go, and that marks the end of that switchback section.
As we go through the 1 kilometer to go board and around this bend, Mont Blanc suddenly comes into view. Now, the limitations of the GoPro certainly don't do the view justice.
Bizarrely, the Col marker boards just before you get to the summit, but I'm sure on a tap day the Col will be marked more prominently.
The gradient eases the closer we get to the summit, and don't forget to look left and take in some of that view.
Thanks for watching this one to the summit of the Col du Pre. I've got another video coming up of a full descent of this down to where we join the Cormet de Roselend. Also, don't forget that there's some free downloads in the description down below. You can click through to those. They'll help you, especially if it's your first Etape. All that I do ask is that you do subscribe to the channel, maybe give us a thumbs up as well. That'd be great. It just supports the channel going forward and helps us produce more videos. Thanks for watching. See you next time on Cycling in the Alps.